Hi, this is Mike. Welcome back to the Moodle Programming series. The goal of this series is to develop a custom Moodle block. This session is simply another step in that process. In this session, we will create a NetBeans project and we will discuss some default Apache settings, configuration settings. To get started, let's go ahead and just click on File and then New Project. Here we can choose a project type. Each category has different project types associated with it. In our case, we simply want the PHP. The remote server, application project, and the existing sources, they require that files and folders exist, like in this case, on the remote server, in this case locally. For our purposes, this also requires a folder but no files uploaded initially. In order to make this work, we're going to have to go to our server and actually create a directory. So let's log in through or using PuTTY and use our default account. Will also need to be the root. By the way, if you use SU with no hyphen, once you've logged in, it'll stay in the same directory. If you use the hyphen, it'll actually redirect you to root's home directory. Just a little tidbit there. So let's go ahead and CD to our Apache document root. And the reason why we have to use root to create our directory in this case is, let's CD up one directory. So we're in var www and ls-l. You can see that HTML directory is owned by root. So if we try to create a project using our Mike user account, it would have failed. So let's go CD back into our HTML directory and let's make a directory called Mike. Since root created that account, we're going to need to switch user accounts that actually own that file. In order to do that, we'll use the chown command with the first argument would be the user account that we want to change it to, and then the second would be the group on which folder. Now we have Mike as the owner with read, write, and execute privileges on that directory. Let's go back to NetBeans and click on File. And let's choose the very first application project. Click Next. We'll name this project Mike. You can place the source files anywhere you want on your local machine. We want PHP 5.3. We want the default encoding to be UTF-8. The run configuration. Run as local website. Well, we don't want that for this particular case. There may be cases where we want to run a local server. And if we made this choice, then we would have to have Apache installed locally at a minimum. But we don't want that choice. We want to choose the remote website, SFTP. Project URL, it defaults to localhost. So we're going to need to either enter a domain name, but since we don't have a domain name, we're going to have to enter the IP address of our server. Remote connection, we're going to have to define one. We'll call it con mic. And we'll choose the connection type of SFTP. Now we'll need to set up the specifics for the connection. We'll first need the host name. Again, if you have a domain name, go ahead and use that. But since we don't, we'll have to use the IP address of our server. Port 22 is standard for SSH or SFTP. Username, we'll use the account mic. We'll need a password. Ignore the private key file and the known hosts file. Our initial directory will be Apache's document root, which we know to be var www html, and we'll leave these other two defaults for timeout and keep alive interval. We can test our connection. NetBeans will provide this authenticity dialog almost every time you access the server. Go ahead and just select yes. And it looks like that maybe I typed in the wrong password. So we'll try that again. Again, the dialog from NetBeans. And here we have a successful connection. So let's go ahead and OK out of that dialog. And next, upload directory. Will be mic. And this root symbol here is relative to the document root. And upload files. We want to upload files on save. You'll see what that means in just a minute. So next. Actually, we can probably finish at this point. Well, let's go ahead and go through next, and we'll just see what's there. We don't have any frameworks, nor are we using Composer. So go ahead and finish. And there we have our first created project. You will notice, though, that even though the file has been created locally, let's go ahead and cd into the mic directory, ls-l, there's no files uploaded. If you remember, we went ahead and selected the on save to upload files on save. So let's go ahead and save this file. We get the authenticity request again, or notification. And now we should see that file online, sure enough. See what it's, and there's our hello world. Print hello world. To verify this, let's go ahead and open a browser. Although we're pretty sure this is going to work. Type in your IP address or list your host name. And now let's list the directory. And there we go. Now you have to, when you work with this particular IDE and this particular application project type, you have to be really careful, because if we add a new folder or file, it will automatically be uploaded to the server. In other words, you have to view this. You have to view this just as if you're working directly on the server, so you have to be really careful. Now we'll work some more with projects and forms in the next session. The remaining part of this session, I want to cover some configuration issues with Apache. So anytime you do not list if you just list the directory, then the server has in this case our file, even though we did not explicitly list index.php, it actually displayed the contents of it. And this is determined by a directive in Apache. You can set it to anything you want. So let's just take a look at that real quick. So let's go ahead and cd to let's just vi. That's etc httpd conf and then httpd.conf. And let's search. You can just search this by using the / and then typing in the thing you're searching for and then enter. So we want to look for directory, and this is case sensitive, directory index. So this here is where if you're just looking for it, if you just list the directory, this determines which file, if it exists, will be displayed, or the content will be displayed. And I don't understand in this particular case why it works without actually having PHP index.php listed here. I'm not sure why that is. It must have I'm not sure why that is. Typically that doesn't work like that. So let's get rid of that other type or file name, and let's just include index.php and then index.html. We could even add like index.htm, and then if somebody just lists a directory, one of these two files will, if they exist, will be displayed. If they don't exist, then you'll see in just a minute where what'll happen. So now, in order to have those changes take effect, we need to restart the server. And in this case, we're not going to see any difference because index.php worked before. But let's say that they didn't exist, then something else would happen. You would actually get a directory listing. Let's go to the document root. And here we don't have an index of any kind. We just have directories listed. So in this case, we've removed so now we're at the document root. So let's just access the server with that URL and let's see what happens. This is not good. We don't really want to display any information about our server. That we want to keep as much information about our server non-public. So this is not something that we want to have on a production site. In order to get rid of this welcome page, we'll need to cd to the httpd conf.d directory, and we'll have to edit the welcome conf file. This configuration file enables a default welcome page if there is no default index page present for the root URL. To disable the welcome page, comment out all the lines below. So we'll do exactly that. Right, and quit. Now again, we'll need to restart the server for that change to take effect. Okay, now we come over here and refresh the page. Now we have something, that's equally as bad. And now we have a directory listing. And we not only have a directory listing, now we have also a server signature telling whoever exactly what we have running and as our web server. So there's two directives in the HTTP in the Apache configuration file that will deal with these. This one's called indexes. This one is a server signature. So let's go back to our configuration file. So we'll have to cd up one directory and then go to conf. Then we'll have our Apache configuration. So we'll go ahead and edit it. Let's do a search again. So we want to search for indexes. And this indexes option right here will be within the directory directive for our document root. So any command, any options listed between the opening and closing directory directive for our document root will have an effect. So in this case, we want to simply put a minus in front of the indexes. So we'll go ahead and write that. That will remove this element here. Now to remove our server signature, we'll need to search for server signature. And again, that's case sensitive, so it's on. We want to put that off, so X, then I, then FF. Let's go ahead and write and quit. And again, we'll need to restart the server. Anytime you make any changes to the configuration, you'll need to restart the service. So we restart the service, and now we'll get a forbidden notice and also nothing telling the public what kind of server we're running. I think that's about it for this particular session. There are a couple commands that are useful for system admins, like pwd is one. That'll tell you where you're currently at. Who am I will tell you who you're logged in as. And then host name will tell you the host that you're currently on. Those are, important things to just, if you have 4 or 5 terminals open and you're working on 2 or 3 different servers, it's really important to know what you're doing, where you're at, and what you're doing. So with that in mind, we'll go ahead and just end this session, and we'll see you next time. Thanks a lot. Bye.